Good morning, everyone. My name's Kerry Brown, and you are now watching Hangout with Coach Kerry. Are you an entrepreneur, maybe a solo entrepreneur, who struggles sometimes with knowing how to get more customers, how to get more clients? Everything would be great if you had just another couple of one-on-one clients, if you're in that kind of a business. Would it be great if you had a bunch more sign-ups to your website, either to get a free product or some information that you've got? Well, all of this deals with the issue of what we call a marketing plan. And if you know me, I'm the how-to coach, I'm the small business expert, and then this episode is for you. I'm calling you from the very west coast of Canada. In fact, not from where I hail from, Victoria. In fact, I'm on the what's called the Sunshine Coast. So if you go onto a map and you look, I'm in a place called Seychelles. And the good news is I get an opportunity to be able to build an international business and be able to be in lots of different places and still be able to communicate with you and have a successful business. So today I want to invite, or actually welcome, my two panel members today who are going to help me with this episode on the first steps regarding a marketing plan. So if I could have them introduce themselves, that would be great. And Bonnie, we'll start with you.
Good morning, Kerry, and thank you. I'm Bonnie Mitchell. My company name is Mitchell Creative, and I work with businesses all over the world to help them visually communicate their services and expertise to the people with whom they wish to do business. I help them by creating complete marketing materials that they'll need in order to conduct their businesses successfully. And I can be found at bonniemitchell.ca.
Great. Thanks, Bonnie. Okay, Kathy, on to you.
Good morning, Kerry. Thanks again for having me on. I always enjoy our sessions. My business is called Niche Travel, and I specialize in women's tours all over the world. So we do wonderful small group tours. And as a matter of fact, I just came back from a fabulous 3-day gourmet Red Seal Chef kayaking adventure, so that was spectacular. So you can find me at nichetravel.ca or nichewomenstours.ca.
Fabulous. I'm going on one of those kayak ones with you really soon. It's on my plan.
That's great.
Okay, so now on to the meat of this. So, you know, marketing is a very misunderstood term. A lot of people consider marketing or confuse marketing with advertising. And what I'm going to say to you is advertising is one component of marketing. So, Kerry, what do you mean by that? Okay, so marketing is any way that you get your word out to the marketplace. Advertising is using a particular medium. So advertising would be print, radio, billboards, anything like that. That's actually advertising. And marketing is just the strategy of getting your word out to the marketplace. So I want to start off today's episode with that distinction, because that's really important, especially for those of you who might be early on in your business. It's really easy to get caught up spending a lot of money on advertising without having an overall plan. So I'm going to go right to my panelists first, because I know they've got a couple of burning questions, and it's going to set up the tone for today's episode, because I know there's going to be some great information. So I really want you to watch to the end of this episode to make sure you get all the pieces, because this is part of a series on a marketing plan. So Bonnie, what would be your first question for me regarding marketing?
Well, I attend a lot of business mixers, and I've found that I've had lots of success in getting in touch with people, getting referrals. And what comes to mind is, why do I need a business plan if that's working for me?
Great. Well, if in fact your networking efforts are getting you all the results that you need, then you probably don't need one. But I'm assuming most of us are ready at a place where we can start scaling up our business. So we say, okay, what other strategies? So really what a marketing plan is, it's a plan that you lay out to determine how it is that you're actually going to get your ideal clients to buy either your product or service. That's the purpose of the marketing plan. So how are you going to get them to buy your product or service? And it's a really important piece. If you've been watching some of my episodes, you know that I'm really particular about that planning piece. You need to step back outside of your business and plan. Because if not, then you're so busy in your business trying to figure out how you're going to make your next dollar, how you're going to get your next client, that you can't see the forest for the trees, so to speak. In fact, there's a book out there that I love its title, and it says, "Is Making Money Killing Your Business?" And in fact, that's so true, because the focus on making money, I've got to pay these bills, keeps you so focused in your business that you don't have the time to work on your business. And so a marketing plan forces you to step back and work on your business. Now, here's the order that you want to keep you want to do this. You first of all have to have some idea of what your business is about, and that's a business plan. And we're going to be dealing with that in a different episode. And depending upon whether your needs for your business plan are for financing or whether it's just to give you a direction in your business, it'll depend whether it's one that you write on a napkin or whether it's one that's 130 pages long. It really depends. So again, that's a topic for another episode. You have to have a rough idea of what your business is about, why you're doing it in the first place. You know, the broad strokes of who is your client, who is your customer, what are the goals, what are the financial goals, what's the feasibility of your business. That's all part of of your business plan. And a marketing plan is a piece of that. Actually, it's developed from that. Because in a business plan, you do take a look at who your market is, what are the broad spectrum of the products that you're going to have. A marketing plan can be specifically for all your products or all your services, or it can be about a specific product or service. Let's say there's a new thing that you want to launch to the marketplace. Then you could create a marketing plan just for that particular product. So, Kathy, for an example, for you, if you have a specific tour that you want to market, you could take that and you could create a marketing plan around a specific tour, because there could be components about that particular tour that would be different than how you would go about marketing another tour. So this forces you to step back and really take a look at that particular product or service and look at it from the perspective of, how am I going to get my ideal customer or client to buy what it is? And that's whether you are a graphic designer, whether you do boutique women's tours, whether you are a coach, whether you are a retail store, whether you are a lawyer, financial advisor, realtor, or restaurateur. Any of those components, any of those businesses, you need to step back and say, how am I going to get people to buy what it is that I do? Does that answer your question, Bonnie?
That does, actually. Very insightful. Thank you, Kerry.
Great. Good. Because it's really important that you understand why you need to do something in the first place. Because as a solo entrepreneur, you're probably filled with all of those, I should. Would you guys both agree with me on that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So the last thing I want to do is give you another should. So the reason, again, to just kind of go back and really cement this in, the reason that you want to do some planning is because if not, then what you're going to do is going to be haphazard. It's not going to have any kind of a perspective on what you expect in return from your efforts on it. And then at the end of the day, I often see this, people who have spent a lot of money attempting to get people to come and buy their products and services with no plan, and they've spent all of their money. And say yes if you know somebody who's done something like that.
Yes.
Yes.
Sure.
Yeah. And it truly breaks my heart because they need to step back. And this is where getting advice from people who actually have your best interests at heart. Now, I'm going to say that when you are in business, you will have lots of people knocking on your door or phoning you or emailing you, asking you to spend your money on their medium for getting your word out. And what I'm going to say to you is right now, unless you have a plan and you have a budget in place and you actually are really clear that that strategy has a really good chance of attracting your ideal clients or customers, the answer is no, not right now. So that you are not spending that hard-earned money that you've got or maybe your savings on something that's a shot in the dark. So that's your reasons why. So Kathy, what's your question for me today as we move through this episode on marketing plans? First, the beginning parts of a marketing plan.
Well, I can certainly see the need for a marketing plan, Kerry, for sure in any business. But what I would say is it sounds so huge. It sounds like such a big project to undertake. Is there a way to break it into bite-sized components that a person can do a little bit at a time?
Absolutely. And in fact, that's why I've broken this topic into some chunks as well. But thanks, it's a good reminder, Kathy, for me to really be able to chunk it down for people. So what I'm going to say for today, I'm going to give you 5 questions. 5 questions for you to ask yourself to kind of do your homework before you get started in your marketing plan. So does that sound good, Kathy? Does 5 sound like it's chunked down enough for you?
Sounds perfect.
Okay, great, good. Okay, so our first one is this question, and this may seem self-evident. You might say, well, really, why am I asking myself this question? It's really important that you go back and really ask yourself, is there a specific product or service that you're talking about here? So your first question is, what is the product or service I am selling? What is the product or service that I am selling? So I'll give you an example. For me as a coach, I coach people one-on-one. But let's say I have a MasterMind that I'm going to be running on Google Hangouts. Well, that's a different service that I'm offering. So if I go about talking to people about this MasterMind and marketing it exactly the same way I do my one-on-one coaching, I may miss out on opportunities to be able to attract people who may live in different areas that may not know about me. So there may be a strategy I have to use to get that word out, which is different than I would do for my one-on-one coaching. So that's why a marketing plan specific to doing my Hangout with Coach Kerry Masterminds on Google Hangouts would be really important for me. So I make sure that my efforts are put in the right direction. Because one of the key things, you're either spending, you are spending resources, whether it's financial resources or whether it's time resources. So those 2 things you are spending, and you please do not discount the value of your time. If you are doing things that is taking a lot of your time and not getting the results, that's just as hazardous to your business as spending lots of money on mediums to get the message out and not getting the results. So that first question is, what is the specific product or service that you're selling? So you've thought that through and you've answered that out. And I really want you to write this out because it gets a really good practice for you of breaking down these components. So number 2 is, who is your market that will buy that product or service? So using my example of my mastermind, a client who will come and that will work with me one-on-one may be somebody who's a little more established in their business because of the price point and the cost of working with me one-on-one. In a group mastermind, the opportunity to be able to work with me, because it's in a group environment, there's less cost involved with that. So I may be able to, my ideal client for that may be someone who's in a position where maybe their cash flow isn't quite where it is yet, so they have some budget constraints, but still want the access to me and the opportunity to be able to mastermind with other people. So those could be 2 separate audiences, and it's really important for me to differentiate that out. Kathy, for you, the same thing would be, is for you, a different type of tour that you're doing would have a different kind of audience. Bonnie, for you, in your graphic design business, you have different components that you offer for clients, so you might have a different audience depending upon what packages you have. So it's really important you think of it in that context. Is that all making sense to you guys?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Great.
Good. Okay. So number 3, what need does that market have for your product or service? So this is where you're going to stop and you're going to say to yourself, what need, or is there a problem that they have that my product or service can solve for them? And this, I'm going to suggest, is something that you're going to take a little bit of time and really think about it. And I'm even going to encourage you to think about, do they lay awake at night worried about something? Or is there a problem that needs to be solved? Now, not every product or service deals with a problem. If you can determine one, it's one of the highest motivators for people to take action, is if there's a problem they're trying to solve. But it could be something that is tied to their inspiration in life, something that they really have that are passionate about, something that's a core value for them. Kathy knows that one of mine is my love of travel. So all I need to have done is been inspired by something in travel, and I'll be laying awake at night thinking about, oh, I want to be there and imagining what it's like. So she has to be able to tap into that for me to get me inspired as a traveler with her. So think about what it is, what needs, what problems, what solutions can you provide for them. So remember, we're talking about that person first. So who is that ideal client? And you really want to identify that. So that's your third question. Your fourth question is, what is the basic message that you would like this to put out to this marketplace in regards to your product or service? What's the basic message? So this is when you're going to kind of brainstorm what's that messaging. What are they going to get from it? What's the value they're going to? I think one really good way to flush that out is by making a whole list of you get, you get, you get, you get. And when you look at that list, if those are specifics, like you get for Kathy's, for her kayak tour, you get to eat great food. You get to hang out with other women who love adventure travel. So all of those pieces, you're going to make that long list of all of those things. Bonnie, for you, I know you can articulate pretty quickly what people would get by good messaging in their marketing, from having a congruent messaging and all of the stuff that they do, that their branding is consistent throughout, what they get as a result of that. You know, there's some intrinsic things that people forget about, but that they know that then if they see that consistency in their branding, that there's an immediate leap that the work they do is professional. It's very interesting, that kind of psychological piece. So this is critical because this is the language you're going to use when you start writing the messaging. So people immediately can identify that's me. That any messaging you do then resonates with them. So I even suggest in this whole process is if you can imagine a specific person, if you could even imagine maybe even an ideal client that you have right now, and say, this is some of the pieces about them. So what is my messaging, what's the kind of messaging that would resonate with this particular person? And when you can do that, then you're creating that messaging that the minute that they read it, it's not a generic, it's specific to them. The challenge is, if you try and create your messaging to cast a very large net, then it's going to resonate with no one. And in a way, it sounds a bit counterintuitive, doesn't it? You think, wow, well, if I try and make these broad brush statements, then it'll capture everyone that's out there. In fact, the opposite is true. What you want to do is be specific to that marketplace. So who it is and what's the messaging, so then it means something to them, so then they will take action. So that's your fourth question. Really important. What is the basic message that you would like to get out to them? And then number 5 is, what is the best way of getting that message out to your projected marketplace? So is it networking? Is it online strategies? Is it through print media? Is it through radio? Is it through magazine ads? What is it going to be? Is it through strategic alliances? Is it through seminars, workshops? Whatever that happens to be, you want to sit down and really flesh that out. That is that medium going to reach that audience that I've identified? Too often, I've mentioned this already in this episode, but too often I see people spending money putting ads, so this is advertising, thinking this is just that it's marketing, it's only one component, but advertising in magazines or print material that's very costly and very expensive, and they haven't taken into consideration what's their budget for that. When you're a startup, often your money's being spent in many different places, and yes, you need customers or clients. It's really important though to be able to look at that money and, okay, this is my budget that I'm putting out there, and what is the minimum return on my investment that I'm going to spend on that to make sure that this is a medium that's going to work for me. It's a really critical piece to take into consideration what that budget is. So those are your 5 questions to get you started, kind of your homework before you get working on the meat and really fleshing out all the various avenues, your frequency of messaging, all of that kind of stuff. But we're going to work through others when we get into the strategic plan piece of it to actually, flesh out how long your campaigns are going to go, what they're actually going to look like, the actual tactics that we're going to put in place. So I'm going to just recap those 5 things for you. So again, what is the product or service that you're selling? And this could be a specific component of your larger business. Who is your market that will buy that product or service? And be as specific as possible. Imagine that person. It may even be a particular client that you have right now. If you said, if my business was built just on that particular kind of person, that I'd be happy with that. That even helps it better for you as you answer the rest of the questions, which is then your third one, which is what need does that market have? What need do they have that I can service, that I can provide the solution for? Sometimes that need might be solving a problem for them. Sometimes that need might be something that's an inspiration or something that is really important value for them that you're going to help them fulfill. Number 4 is, what is your basic messaging that you're going to put out in the marketplace to that ideal client regarding your product or services? And then number 5 is, what are the various methods you're going to use to get the message out there? And that's your 5 basic questions. Now, one of the things I like to do with that number 5 question is I actually like to mind map. I don't know about you, but I like the tactile piece of being able to take my pen and put it on a piece of paper and move it around. That also helps me because I'm a visual and I'm a kinesthetic, so I have the opportunity to be able to, sort of see it, and it helps me pull out those thoughts. So you can use, there's software online you can use as well. What I like to do is get a blank sheet of paper and in the middle put what that particular product is. And then I like to brainstorm all the various strategies. So whether I'm going to use social media, what that's going to look like, what's my frequency going to look like, all of that. Just start putting some rough pieces around that. Then you can take that and expand it further as we go through the next episodes on what's the strategic plan for that, to put that in place. Then we'll look at all the various tactics that are in there. But it's the start of really starting to flesh this out and get these ideas out of your head onto a piece of paper. Because I don't know about you, but in the, almost 17 years that I've been coaching people just like Kathy and Bonnie and you who are listening to this episode and watching it, is that often when we look at something like this, it does feel like an elephant. And it's really important to break it down into those bite-sized chunks and to even know what's my next step. Not what the next 40 steps are, but what's my next step. So if you do that sort of mind mapping exercise, what it helps you do is kind of flesh out, okay, what's just the next step? Okay, I've got 3 of them here. This is the next step. I can take action on that. And then once you do that, what's my next one? And each action step you take will inform the next one that you're going to do. So this is the first steps in creating this marketing plan, so that all of your resources, that's your time and your money, are being spent in the right direction and moving you forward so that you get the results that you need. So Kathy and Bonnie, any questions based on what I've said so far in these early steps of how to get started with your marketing plan? Anything you want to have me flesh out a little bit more for you?
No, that's good. Oh, go ahead, Kathy.
I was going to say, I think I'm pretty good. I think it's, I like the fact that you've got, the questions are short, so you can just sit down and work through them one at a time. It's great.
Good. Excellent. Bonnie, how about for you?
Yeah, I think that's great. It really is in nice bite-sized chunks and easy to digest, so I think I have some work to do.
Great. Well, that's the idea, isn't it? My promise is on these episodes is I will give you tips and strategies, and now it's up to you to take action on them. So again, you can watch this episode again if you go to hangoutwithcoachkerry.com, and you can also see previous episodes there as well. There's also tips and resources. So again, go to hangoutwithcoachkerry.com. Kerry is spelled Kerry, and watch the episodes that are there. And I want to thank my panelists today for being on and asking some really great questions to really frame our episode today. So I'm going to challenge all of you to take this information, start working through these questions, help it inform the actions that you're taking with regard to getting your message out in the marketplace so that you are building your business with a plan. Planning is really critical. It's a really key piece of that. And it doesn't mean that it has to be complicated. It doesn't mean it has to be a 150-page document. In fact, what it means is that you know at least the next step, that you have a framework within which you can work so that you are moving forward with your business and getting the results that you want, whether that's more customers, more clients, more ease in your business, more money. All of that will come with some planning. So I encourage you to act on it as soon as you've finished watching this episode, and I hope you come and hang out with me at future episodes. You can watch me live at 9 a.m. Pacific time at hangoutwithcoachkerry.com and on Google Hangouts. You can follow me on Google Plus at hangoutwithcoachkerry.com. I look forward to interacting with you. Send me some messages. Let me know how you're enjoying these videos and the audios, and I have an inspired week. We'll talk to you all really soon. Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Bye, Kerry.